Hi everyone, I'm Owen. What I'm about to tell you happened when I was in the 8th grade. It was a really difficult year. I'm sure you'll be shocked and a little freaked out when you hear my story, because it sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, but there's nothing to be afraid of. At the end of the video, you'll see that there's a rational explanation for all the supernatural stuff that I went through. But first, a little reminder, if you haven't already done so, you can subscribe to this channel now. This way, you'll be the first to know when we upload new videos. And please don't forget to like the video if you find my story interesting. When I was in junior high, two things really bothered me: my height and my voice. My friends sounded older since most of them had started puberty, but I still sounded like a little kid. I would check my voice first thing in the morning when I woke up, and each time I'd be bummed out that it hadn't changed. It seems funny now how upset I was about something like this, but I was really hung up on it at that time. I was also really upset that I wasn't getting taller fast enough. I was one of the shortest kids in my grade. My friends had suddenly shot up. I knew I couldn't make my voice any deeper, but I thought I should be able to do something about my height. I Googled, how can I make myself grow taller? I clicked on every single link that came up. Playing sports, especially basketball, was a common recommendation. I saved my allowance to buy a basketball hoop and a ball. Normally, I'm pretty lazy when it comes to sports, but this time I was really motivated. I really wanted to grow taller. I was going to do whatever I could to become as tall as my friends so they'd stop looking down on me. After coming home from school, I would change my clothes and play basketball for hours. At the time, the only sign that I had started puberty was a huge increase in my appetite. No matter how much I ate, I still felt hungry. It was as if I had a deep hole inside me and I was trying to fill it. My family also noticed my insatiable hunger. I was the first to sit down at the dinner table and the last to get up. After dinner, I would go to the kitchen every 10 minutes to look for a snack. When I started overeating, my mom began to hide food from me. I found out about it later. One day when I came home, I noticed the house was smelling like cake. I got really excited and ran to the kitchen. I asked my mom, "Did you bake a cake? It smells amazing." My mom said, "No, I didn't bake anything. The smell must be coming from the neighbors." I believed her because my mom had never lied to me about stuff like this. That whole day, the smell kept driving me crazy. It was all I could think about. At night, after everyone had gone to bed, I decided to check where it was coming from. Do you know where I found the cake? Inside the laundry machine. I was thrilled like a pirate who just found the treasure. I kept eating piece after piece until I finished the whole cake. When my mom saw it the next morning, she was pretty angry. It turned out that her friends were coming over. She made the cake for them. She wasn't able to save it from me even though she hid it really well. When my dad found out, he said mockingly, "One person can't eat so much cake by himself. There's definitely one more person inside you. Let's give him a name. How about Ian?" This Ian joke went on for a long time. At dinner, when I would ask my mom, "Can I get one more plate of this?" my dad would say, "Owen is full. Now it's Ian's turn. He needs to eat too." Even though it bugged me a little at first, I got used to it eventually. I began to ask my mom, "Is there enough left for Ian?" when I wanted more food. One night, I woke up soaked in sweat. I'd had the scariest dream. This hand was coming out of my mouth as I was eating. It was holding a fork saying, me too," in a raspy voice. It was the first time I'd dreamt of Ian, the person who lived inside me. I was so relieved when I realized it had only been a dream, but the next night Ian was in my dream again. This time, he was trying to push his head through my mouth. At the same time, he was screaming, give me food," in that weird voice of his. I woke up gasping for air. The next morning, when I talked about my dream, my dad said, "It sounds like you can't feed Ian enough. He's coming for you in your dreams," and laughed. The following night, I saw Ian yet again, but this time it wasn't a dream. Yes, I saw Ian in real life. After I brushed my teeth, I felt something in my mouth. I looked in the mirror. I saw a pair of eyes looking out. You heard that right. I said a pair of eyes. Ian was looking at me from inside my mouth. You have no idea how scared I was. I couldn't run and tell my parents about it because it was ridiculous. I was so scared I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Finally, I convinced myself that I had dreamt it. That's how I calmed down and was able to fall asleep. Unfortunately, I started seeing Ian even more frequently after that. Sometimes I'd hear his voice too. He was constantly asking for food. When I'd wake up in the morning, I would check inside my mouth with my phone's camera to see if he was still there. And when I'd see those scary eyes, I would immediately close my mouth. Now, I was sure Ian was real and he lived inside me. I knew my parents would think I was crazy, but I decided to talk to them anyway. When I told them what was happening, at first they laughed. But when they realized this was no joke and I was dead serious, they panicked. My dad said, "That can't be happening." I made a silly joke, and it went on for too long. "It's all my fault. Let's not talk about this ever again," he said. To convince them, I said, "Look inside me. You will see Ian for yourself," and opened my mouth. My mom said, "Owen, I'm getting worried. Please don't talk like this." When I insisted, she had to take a look. But she didn't see anything. Unfortunately, I was the only one who could see Ian. The next day, we were in the waiting room at a hospital. Without wasting any time, my dad got an appointment with a psychiatrist, that is, a mental health doctor. The doctor asked me many questions. He didn't comment on whether what I was seeing was real or imaginary. He just kept nodding and taking notes. I later found out that the doctor told my parents Owen is, of course, hallucinating. However, apart from the hallucination, he doesn't have any other symptoms of a specific mental disorder. There must be another reason for this. We can't start treatment before we identify what that is. And he asked us to come back in 3 days after he had done some research. Nothing changed in my life in those 3 days. I kept seeing Ian inside my mouth. He was asking for food all the time. I was eating huge amounts of food to satisfy him. I had begun to eat enough for 3 or 4 people. Perhaps there were other people inside me in addition to Ian. When we went to the psychiatrist again, there was another doctor with him. That doctor's specialty was neurology. That means he treats diseases of the brain and the nervous system. He examined me as well. He made me tell him my story. "Did you recently get hit in the head?" he asked. After the examination, they put me inside a huge machine and scanned my brain. We'd get the results the next day. They wanted us to be at the hospital early in the morning. The next day when we arrived, we saw that there was another doctor in the room alongside the psychiatrist and the neurologist. His specialty was disorders of the stomach and the digestive system. He examined me like the others had done. Then he wanted to run some lab tests on me. You're curious about what happened, right? When you find out what my issue was, you'll realize it had something to do with all 3 doctors. Let me tell you what it is before I drive you crazy. Guys, I had a 20-foot-long tapeworm living in my intestines. Tapeworm is a parasitic animal that lives in the small intestine. These worm-like creatures feed on everything that we eat. This was the reason I was eating so much. Because I was sharing everything I ate with these worms, I was always hungry. So is Ian, the person who lives inside me, real? Of course not. The worms laid eggs inside my intestines, and some of those eggs went up to my brain. When the eggs hatched, the larvae, or the baby tapeworm, were released. I began seeing hallucinations because of the larvae in my brain. My brain turned my dad's Ian joke into a character and began projecting that to me as if it was real. I'm so lucky I got cured thanks to these 3 doctors. The tapeworms in my intestines were the specialty of the digestive system specialist, the larva going to my brain the specialty of the neurologist, and my hallucinating the specialty of the psychiatrist. The worms in my intestines and the larva in my brain were surgically removed. I don't have any health problems anymore. I found out that eating raw or rare meat is how tapeworms enter the body. I probably got it from rare meat. My dad often makes barbecue in our backyard. I always eat the meat rare because it's more tender. Apparently, once, when the meat was really rare, the tapeworm eggs must have entered my body. After this, I will be much more careful. By the way, for those who are wondering, I did get taller. As you can hear, I also don't sound like a kid anymore, and I don't eat as much as I used to. Now, it sounds really funny that I believed there was a person living inside me. The brain is an extraordinary organ, extraordinary enough to show you something that doesn't exist. If someone else was telling me all this, I might not have believed them. But it's all true because I lived through it.
Hi guys. I can't tell you my name because I have an embarrassing psychological condition. It's not something that I can control and my therapy is still continuing. So I don't want to reveal who I am. Guys, I'm a compulsive liar. Like I said, this is a psychological condition. Doctors also call it pathological lying, which means from a doctor's perspective, I'm sick. I know it sounds horrible, but my sickness is lying. What does being a compulsive liar mean? Why is this even a condition? But more importantly, is there treatment for it? For those who don't know, I'll try to answer these questions with examples. I'll also tell you about my biggest lie soon. When that lie came out, my parents found out that I had the condition and I started getting treatment. Usually, people lie when they need to. Everybody lies. Let's think about the simplest example. You're a kid. You're playing ball with your little sister. You accidentally break your mom's favorite vase. Your mom comes in from the kitchen when she hears the noise. She's angry and asks, "Who did this?" You get scared of being punished and you point to your sister. You blame her saying, "She did it. I told her so many times that she can't play here, but she doesn't listen." Whether your mom believes you or not is another story. But what matters here is that there is a reason for you to lie in this situation. People who are pathological liars don't need reasons to lie. We make up big and small lies unnecessarily. Lying is part of our life. When we lie so much, we become experts. We begin to create elaborate scenarios. We play a kind of convincing game. First we say, let's see how good a lie I can come up with. Then we start playing a game. I wonder if I'll be able to convince them. There's a park that I take my dog to. Once my dog started fighting with another dog. The owner was a girl around my age. After the dogs calmed down and started playing, we sat down and started chatting. As we were talking, I was making up a lie in my head. She asked, "What do you do besides school?" I said, "I'm training for the Olympics." She said, "Really? Which sport?" And I started telling a story. I've been swimming since I was a little kid. I don't really like it, but my mom pushes me to do sports. One day, my swimming coach noticed that I was much faster than the other kids. He asked them to get out of the pool and told me to swim 4 laps. He timed me. When I was done, he was really excited. He kept on saying, "You're amazing. You're unbelievable." We realized that day that I had a God-given talent for swimming. My coach pressured me to compete, but I didn't want to become a professional swimmer. Like I said, I don't like sports, and the idea of becoming a professional swimmer doesn't appeal to me at all. The girl was all ears. From time to time, she would say things like, "Yes, there are people like you with hidden talents," or "I think you should go for it." When I saw that she believed me, I kept on embellishing the lie, turning it into a film scenario. She asked, "How did they convince you to go to the Olympics?" Now it was my time to add in some acting. "My dad," I said, choking back tears. "We lost my dad in a car crash last year and..." I couldn't finish my sentence because I started crying. She took out a tissue and gave it to me. "You don't have to tell me. I'm sorry that I upset you," she said. As I wiped my tears, I said, "No, it's not your fault. It actually feels good to share," and continued. My dad was always very excited to come to my swimming practice. He would always say, "I'm proud of you," and hug me afterwards. But I hadn't done anything to make him proud. If I had competed and won something, he would have been so happy. But I didn't do it. So now, I'll go to the Olympics, break the world record, and tell the cameras it's a gift to my dad. Now my new friend was crying too. I'm especially good at short distance swimming. During practice, I break the world records for 50 meters and 100 meters freestyle. I'm going to give my dad not 1, but 2 records. I practice 8 hours a day. My goal is to do much better than the current records so that they won't be able to break my record for a long time. Then my success will be worthy of my dad's pride. I know that he watches me from above. I can't wait to make him proud. We hugged and started crying. It was unbelievable. I had made up thousands of lies before, but none had been as effective as this one. That night, I felt like a general after a big victory. I admired myself more and more each time I retold the story in my head. Still, even when you have this condition, you know that what you're doing is wrong. So you have to be really careful. For example, I never tell big lies to my friends or family. because they could easily figure him out and it would be hard to convince them. But, as I've shown you, you can easily convince someone you've just met or someone you'll never see again of pretty much anything. I broke my rule of not lying to friends and family once, and that's how my parents learned about my condition. Now, I'm going to tell you about that lie. One weekend, I was going to a friend's birthday party in a different part of the city. As I was checking the map on my phone, I bumped into a man. He was big, with a bald head and a beard. He looked me up and down. I apologized and continued walking. When I looked back, I saw that he was following me. Or at least I thought he was, until he turned to another street. I guess he just needed to go in the same direction. As I was approaching my friend's house, I had an idea. What could possibly happen if I lied to my close friends once about a man I'll never see again? It would make this party unforgettable for me and my friends. Or so I thought. I started acting out the lie right then. I turned off my phone and threw it into a trash can with my bag. That way, I would get a new phone too. When I arrived at my friend's house, I could barely breathe and I was crying at the same time. As I walked in, everybody just gathered around me, forgetting about the party. I started telling my story with no shame. I was walking, looking at the map on my phone. Suddenly, a man just appeared in front of me. He told me to give him my phone and my bag. Before I could do anything, he grabbed my bag. As I was giving him my phone, he took hold of my wrist and asked me how old I was. I started crying like crazy. He started dragging me. Just then, someone from inside one of the apartments yelled, "Let her go! I'm calling the police!" And he freaked out. So I started running without looking back. I owe that woman my life. But my phone and my bag were stolen. My goal was to get all the attention and then enjoy the party. But then things took an unexpected turn. I didn't know that my friend's dad was a high-level policeman. He came home right away when he heard about what happened. He apologized to me several times. He said that it was unforgivable that a guest should experience such a thing. We went to the police station together. They took my statement. Then an artist came in and made a sketch based on my description. I regret not describing someone else. Like an idiot, I described the bald man who I thought followed me. A week later, my friend's dad came to our house and took me and my parents back to the police station. They had caught him. They took us into a room. We could see the man through a two-way mirror. "Is this the man who robbed you?" they asked. Yes, it really was the same guy. They said he got out of prison last year and has a record of similar crimes. He hasn't done anything since he got out, but these kinds of men never learn. Apparently, he went back to his old ways. The police were sure that they got the right guy. It was obvious that I was just there as a formality. I was shaking with fear. I never thought it would come to this. I didn't know what to do. If I said, yes, it's him, I was going to be responsible for an innocent man going to prison. I had described him so well that he looked exactly the same as the person in the sketch. They were so alike that I couldn't say it's not him. Suddenly, I started crying. My mom hugged me. I was blabbering. I lied. I lied again. Everybody in the room looked at me in shock. I confessed that I had lied, feeling like I was in a trance. I don't think I'll ever be so ashamed in my life again. When we came back home, my parents were so sad. Their only daughter was the liar, but they didn't get angry with me because they knew I didn't have bad intentions. Like I said, they were just really sad. They made me an appointment with a psychiatrist. In the first session, I tried telling everything honestly. Then the doctor told me and my parents what kind of therapy I was going to have. Apparently, it was going to be a difficult process that would include both medication and therapy. We don't know how long it will last. Apparently, the success of the treatment depends on how eager I am. I really want to be cured of this condition, and I'm going to succeed, no matter what.
Hi guys, I'm Ryan. I'm 17 years old. I was in a coma for 5 months and 12 days. It was such a strange experience. I shifted between a dream state and reality. After a while, I could hear what people were saying around me, but I couldn't react. Something incredible happened while I was in the coma. Let me start from the beginning. In ancient Greek, the word coma means deep sleep, but patient's experience is very different than sleep. The body turns off consciousness to heal itself, minimizing brain activity. It's kind of like hitting restart on a computer. You get fed through tubes. Some patients are attached to a machine to breathe well. This machine feeds the oxygen your body needs straight to your lungs. So, how did I end up in a coma? I remember a falling sensation, then the sound of hitting something before losing consciousness. Then I was sucked into a vortex. I spun while falling all the way down. Voices became distant. The worst part, the deeper the vortex took me, the darker it got. Suddenly, the spinning slowed down. I remember thinking, is this what death feels like? Then a deep silence and absolute darkness. Now I know that was the moment I slipped into the coma. Even though it felt long, it took just 15 or 20 seconds. I remember nothing from the first few months. I don't know how, but one day I began hearing voices. At first, it was all muffled. Sometime later, they were normal. I could hear things happening around me. But soon I realized the sad truth. I was still in a coma even if part of my brain was awake. I tried opening my eyes, but I couldn't. I wanted to say, I can hear you, but I couldn't move my lips at all. I wanted to move my hands and sit up, but I couldn't move a muscle. It was like an invisible force was stopping me. One day, a group of people entered my room. I knew from the way that they talked, they were doctors. They were talking about two patients. One was me, which meant that there must be another patient in the room. They compared our conditions. They spoke openly because we were both comatose. It sounded like they didn't think I would come out of my coma. According to them, there was no hope. It was the end of the road for me. They said the other patient would recover soon. They even decided which patient would take my bed after I died. I wanted to say that I heard them, that they were wrong about me, but it was just impossible. My mom and my girlfriend Piper told me what led me into a coma. My mom visited me every day. She'd cry silently while caring for me. She would change my clothes, wash me with a cloth, put lotion on my bed sores. Nobody in the whole world loves you like your mother. That's for sure. She'd murmur the same things as she cried. You didn't want to go to camp. I made you go so you would socialize. You just wanted to relax. You didn't want to stay in a tent. I'm responsible for all this. It's my fault. I wish I hadn't made you go. My mom was talking about a camp, but I didn't remember anything. Those memories were gone. Did I go to camp with my friends? What happened there? Did I fall off somewhere? I tried, but I couldn't remember being at a camp or anything that might have happened there. Piper answered all of those questions for me. One day, I heard her voice. She was right by my side. She was caressing my head. Please forgive me. I stayed away because your mom is so mad at me. I was just too scared, she said. She kept talking like she knew I could hear her confessing her sins. I couldn't remember the things she spoke about, but now I knew what had happened. We went camping on a school trip. When Piper was showing me a photo on her phone, she got a text. It said, "Will I be able to see you tonight?" I took her phone and saw that the message was from a guy called Caleb. He was at the camp too. I should have asked Piper what was going on, but I was too angry to think straight. I attacked him and we started fighting. When Caleb pushed me, I fell down and hit my head on a stone. That's when I lost consciousness. Piper knew it was her fault, but she was here without shame. If only I could open my eyes and sit up. I would spit in her surprised face. I would say, get out and don't ever come back." It was impossible, but I knew when I came out of the coma, that's what I'd do. At first, I really enjoyed hearing what was going on around me. At least I felt alive. But the months of no improvement in my condition started to bug me. Even the doctors started visiting me less frequently. Who knows, maybe they weren't happy because they guessed wrong. I wasn't dead and the other patient was still in a coma. One day, while I was really bored, I overheard a weird conversation. I'd never heard anyone visiting the other patient. Now there was a man and woman on that side. The man said, "I'm bringing the money back to your place tomorrow. I thought I could do it, but I can't. You should drop it too." She was really mad, speaking through clenched teeth. "Nathan, you promised me. I sold everything to get you that money. If you're not going to do it, then show me. I'll do what needs to be done. He deserves to die." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was I dreaming? Was she really talking about killing someone in a coma? Nathan gave in to her insistence after a while. In a low voice, he said, "This switch controls the oxygen. You can decrease it by turning it towards the left. Look, see that small device on your husband's finger? It measures heart rate and blood oxygen levels. If the heart rate slows and the oxygen levels drop, the alarm will go off. You need to turn the alarm's volume down before bringing down the oxygen levels. Nobody will check it. Even if they do, they'll think a nurse made an honest mistake." I was listening in awe. Was this Nathan guy a doctor? He kept calling the patient your husband. Was this woman the patient's wife then? Why did she want to kill her husband? But more importantly, was she actually going to do it? Suddenly, life was exciting. I was listening to them anxiously. During that period, my consciousness was coming and going. Sometimes I would spend days without hearing a sound. It was like drifting in and out of a deep sleep. Maybe, as the doctor said, I was at the end of the road. I was really scared, but there was nothing I could do. Then I fell into the vortex one more time. The sounds became muffled again. I spun endlessly in the vortex and completely lost consciousness. I clearly remember the moment I woke up. My eyes sprang open. I hadn't seen light in months, so I immediately closed my eyes. I heard my mom scream with joy. She'd seen my eyes open. She shut the curtains right away. I opened my eyes again. I smiled at her. She said, "Welcome back, sweetie," and started crying. The room was filled with doctors within 10 minutes. I wasn't sure I could talk yet. I felt like my voice wouldn't come out. I just kept on smiling. A few days later, I recalled a dream from my coma. This whole experience was so weird. In my dream, another patient's wife wanted to kill him. A doctor named Nathan was helping her, but in the next bed was a patient who was only a bit older than me, not old enough to have a wife. I was now speaking comfortably. I told this dream to my mom, laughing. She froze when I stopped talking. Apparently, the guy in the next bed had died a month ago. The new patient had only arrived a week or two ago. The deceased patient's wife would visit on occasion. She would sit and stare at him silently. What about Nathan? My mom said there was no doctor named Nathan, but oddly so, there was a caregiver with that name. My mom couldn't help herself, and she told the hospital directorate about this. This wasn't good for the hospital, of course. They said they would look into it, but they didn't do anything. They didn't even come to talk to me. But my mom didn't give up. When the police got involved, the truth came out. The patient in my room had been cheating on his wife. One night, he and his girlfriend were in a car accident. The girlfriend died, but he fell into a coma. The wife wanted revenge, so she planned his murder. She made a deal with a caregiver, Nathan. But Nathan backed out. He decided he couldn't kill someone, even in a coma. When she said she would do it herself, he told her what needed to be done. That's the part I had witnessed. One day, she came by towards the end of visiting hours. She played with the settings of the oxygen machine so that he'd get less oxygen. Nobody knew about it because she had lowered the volume of the alarm.
Everyone had assumed it was just a coma-related death. The wife and the caregiver had to confess what they had done because of me. And they were both arrested. See how important loyalty is? Why did I and the man who died go into a coma? Yes, cheating. If he and Piper were loyal, none of this would have happened. I hope you found my story interesting. Thanks for listening. Bye.